Hello guys and welcome to this new video of 7 smart things about Zelda Breath of the Wild art. It's either weird, sometimes smart, sometimes both. You will tell me what you think about it. So let's jump right into it with the number 1, which is water is everywhere. Yeah, I swear, I'm not lying. Water is spawned everywhere in the map, in the mountain, in the desert. Some people discovered this by unlocking the camera, and they discovered the water was put down the player all the time, which means the mesh was deformed in order to fit the environment and above the terrain. Nobody can see it. It's pretty weird. I don't know why they did that, because generally you want your mesh to just be on the place you have water. You don't want it to be everywhere because it's messy, it can wait on performance. So why they did that, I have few ideas I'm not sure about. The first one maybe would be because they have a water system, so you cannot put several ones because it can conflict with each other. Or maybe the second idea would be they want to reduce draw calls, so having one master mesh everywhere can do it. I'm not sure about this. So if you have ideas, please share them. And let's jump to the next one. Weird thing number 2. Except this one is smart, I think. The flowers you're seeing here are floating, they are not connected to the ground, which means they don't have any stem. Let me show you. So if you have good eyes and looking closely enough, you can see they're not connected. There is no geometry in the middle, which are pretty okay, pretty cool, because why bothering modeling the stem if nobody is going to see it? With the safe geometry you can put more flowers and have more beautiful ground, so that's totally smart and fair. Don't do that for bigger flowers like this, because it's going to be noticeable, but for little ones like this is really cool move. They look really realistic, because they're moving from their pivot point. You really think they have a stem, but they don't have it, it's just a floating geometry. So very cool thing, not very big one, but enough to notice it. Let's move on. Weird thing number 3. Inverse LOD logic for specific grass. Which means the grass you're seeing right in front of me is going to disappear when I'm going to approach it, which is actually the total opposite of the common logic you're using when you're dealing with LOD. You want your grass popping when you're getting closer, not the reverse, but this is what is going to happen here. I'm going to show you. So you can see here this grass, like in maybe 3, 4, 5 meters from me, and when I'm going to approach, I'm coming closer, it's changing color, so it's kind of disappearing. But when I'm going to take this, not this one, okay, and I'm going away, it's getting back. Look at that little sneaky grass. And when I'm going closer, it's disappearing. Oh, where are you going? Really weird, but I have some ideas about it. Not sure again. It's Nintendo, you never know why they choose this and that. But maybe they just wanted to give an impression of a covered ground from that distance. But they did it with a very cheap way. I mean, this texture is a really basic grass texture. Sorry, I cannot really see it. It's not really detailed or beautiful, so maybe they didn't want the player to see that. So they hide it when the player comes closer by changing its color and making a little bit disappear. Look at that, you cannot see it anymore. It's really interesting. Again, if you have ideas, please share. I would be very happy to read you, because this is really weird. Okay, weird thing number 4, I think. So I'm not very sure about this point because it's more art direction related topic. But in this island, you probably know it's my favorite playground. You have 2 or 3 different color for rocks, art style for rocks. You have this volcano dark one, and you can retrieve it there next to the water. and you have this pinky bright soft one here, pretty neutral, and you have another one. Let me talk, please. Another one here, it's the brown, green, brown classic ones you can find in island environments. So I'm not sure, I don't understand very well, because to me, when you have an area, you need maybe to respect a certain theme with some color gradient, color palettes. For example, in the jungle in Zelda, you have this reddish rock everywhere, because it's the theme of the area, so it's pretty common, normal, and this color is pretty respected everywhere. But not here, like you have a lot of different mixed together. So I'm not sure about this one, but I'm not going to criticize it because it's beautiful and it works well, but that's not something I would do for my own game. So let me know what you think about it. I thought it was worth to mention at least. Weird smart thing number 5, raising ground details. So you have in the game some geometry, which are rocks, shells, fallen leaves, that are modeled, so it's not textured, and they're on the ground, and they have a very funny transition effect. They're growing from the ground. Look at it here. If you look at the leaves behind me, you can see that they are going down and going up again, going down, up, and it's the same for the shells next to me here. They're not fading, they're just going down the ground, and it's going to be stormy soon in the game anyway. Yeah, I thought it was cool to mention, because that's not a choice I would go for in the game I'm developing. I'm just using fading transition. So when you're going away from grass and details, it's a fading transition, which I find pretty cool. I don't understand why they did that, because maybe it would make more sense to use this for vegetation, because vegetation is growing, so coming from the ground and getting higher would make sense. But for rocks and shells and stuff like this, I don't know. I don't know if it's smart, weird, but it's Nintendo team, guys, so it's definitely cool. Yeah, that's it. Next. Weird point number 6. This one is really weird. Realistic texture mixed with stylized textures. So I mentioned this point on my previous video. No need to explain more. You can see I'm not lying. Look at that. It's really realistic compared to, for example, the rock texture here, which is stylized with a little bit details, but this one is just wow. It looks like they took a realistic texture and they blur it and raise the contrast in Photoshop or anything to make it a little bit more stylized. Here it is, like this. It's really weird and interesting at the same time. So if you guys have ideas and answer about this, please teach me, because I'm still confused. But it works. It's cool. It is beautiful, and nobody noticed this, I'm sure. Don't lie. Okay, let's jump on the next point. 7 and last weird smart thing about Zelda Breath of the Wild art: super detailed ground. So as you can see here, the textures on ground are super heavy in details, which can be surprising as Zelda Breath of the Wild is supposed to be a stylized game. For example, you don't have any details on characters, you don't have a lot of details on foliage and vegetation in general too, but for ground it's really rich and full of details. So I'm going to give you a deeper explanation here, my analysis. You have your own, of course, but Nintendo, when they created this game, it was the first time for them to make an open world, and it's hard to make an open world. And the most common critic when you're making an open world is it's empty, there is nothing to do, basically emptiness, because it's too big and it's not enough interesting. And I think Nintendo really focused on this point, making the game. That's why you have a lot of interest points in the environment, like things to do. You're always distracted by little things here and there. And also this ground texture is super rich because you're walking on the floor, and with this super detailed grounds you have this impression of yeah, full of anything. And the thing is, when you are an artist and you're making a 3D model or an asset, you can work on the geometry to give details, and later on you put a texture to add even more details. But for terrain you cannot do that, because in most I'm pretty sure on almost every terrain system out there you're working with a very low mesh density, because the terrain is everywhere. So if you have a high density mesh, it would be really troublesome, because too much geometry to deal with. But because you cannot, you barely can sculpt the terrain, add a little bit geometry, but you cannot do a lot. So maybe they wanted to compensate with super detailed textures. I'm not sure, but it's an idea, it's an answer. If you have another answer, please share, I will be happy to read it. But yeah, it's interesting, but it works. As I said in my previous video, it's a mix of different art style inside the game, but it's beautiful. So super smart, super interesting, a little bit weird, but very cool to mention. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. I was really happy to make it, and please show me your support, like, subscription, comments, whatever. It's giving me motivation to spend more time on the next videos and do my best and raise the quality. So very cool. Thank you, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.